actually a style that's called unschooling.
Yeah.
So, and there's a whole methodology to that people would not understand. And there's classical, and, you know, there's all sorts of types of homeschooling out there.
Yeah.
And I like to use a little bit of both. So I want to just shout out Carla. Thanks for tuning in, Carla. I had a special show for you today, and we had to rearrange the guests. So we brought Carla this week, and we're going to have Kate Marie another week in the future. So stay tuned for that, Carla, because you're going to love that episode. And thanks for the love. You're amazing. I see that my girl Mel's in the house. Hey, Mel's. Thanks for tuning in. She actually really helped me homeschool my son. That's his auntie. And she really was an active participant and got to see everything that I went through, all the trials and tribulations and the days of frustration. And so I think a lot of parents last year got a chance to experience that, because everybody became homeschooling parents for a while. And you could see just how difficult it is. And I found myself in a position where I could say, hey, look, have you tried this? Maybe that could work for you. And I got to, you know, support people that were struggling during that time. So were you able to, you know, offer advice and support for people who were homeschooling last year?
I was able to offer lots of advice. But you know what, Kia, what really came out last year for me was how much parents were interested more in the values. And I think because of what was happening in society, parents were suddenly realizing that maybe all this curriculum stuff is not where I want to focus. That was the biggest shift that I saw. For years and years, I've worked where parents are often trying to push academics on kids that are really struggling. You know this, having a child with ADHD, that there are so many challenges that they face before they get to the academics. And I always used to call it learning to learn. When I was in my job, I would say to my colleagues, look, with my students, we're not at the learning stage yet. We're at the learning how to learn stage. So you're just going to have to bear with us, because we've got a lot of hurdles to get through over the next few weeks before we can actually get to any academics. And I think that last year I saw an increase in the number of parents who were interested in asking questions about all of the things that they had sort of put to the background in favor of academics. So how do I get my child to behave better? Is my child, the biggest one was, is my child's mental health going to be okay? And how is that going to affect their learning? That's the kind of stuff. And actually, I'm still answering a lot of questions and dealing with that now with parents, because that's really what they care about now. They're like, well, all this academic stuff and all these sometimes ridiculously high standards. I don't know about the US, but here in the UK, we have these continually increasing standards that most students can't achieve. And they are pushing that on kids to the detriment of things like values, the detriment of things like mental health, the detriment of things like family structure, and the importance of building yourself from a holistic well-being perspective, as well as all these academic pursuits. So yeah, definitely parents are asking a lot more questions now. And I think that was one of the best things to come out of COVID. They're putting the schools on the spot. They want to see the curriculum. They want to know why certain things are not covered in the curriculum. They're feeling more empowered. And that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing when you're really involved in your kids' education, and sort of guiding the way that it's going to go. For my son, actually, we did unschooling for a year. And we just went to a lot of homeschooling groups where there were group learning activities, group science, group this, group that. And that's what it was. Instead of me doing, for the years before that, I did the curriculum and I made lesson plans and I did everything. So yeah, it's a lot of work, man. Mad props to all the teachers out there. Mad respect, because it's hard. It's hard. And then I only had one student. Like, I can imagine some of these kids, no shade on the Miami school district. There were 30 kids in that class and one teacher and like an assistant. I'm like, that's just a lot. And I have some family members that are school teachers in Miami, and it's a lot of respect, because it's hard work. It really is. And so for me, we tried different things for my son to get him to like learning, because he really hates learning. And one of the things that I discovered in my journey that could potentially help other parents is the theory of multiple intelligences. There are different ways that your child is smart, right? And if we can tap into that, we can really foster that love of learning in them, because they will be more confident. They will feel empowered because we're giving them what they need to, letting them know that, hey, because sometimes when you're in the public school district, you think you're not smart, but that's just not the way you learn best. What do you think about that, Carla?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was my whole career, really, Kia, because this is what I had to do every single day. I had to figure out on the fly, not only how each kid was smart in general, where their strengths lay in general, but then also how they were changing from moment to moment. Because a lot of the time we hear these buzzwords in education, even as teachers, and they'll say, oh, this kid's nature smart and this kid's word smart and this and this. But actually they change from day to day as well. Their moods change, their interests change. They're going through different stages of development. And you've all the time got to be keeping up with all the things that are changing, and their different needs and their interests and their levels of engagement, their mood. All of that has to be happening as you're going. Education is a dynamic thing. And there's no one approach that works. We hear this thing of one size doesn't fit all in a class, but it also doesn't fit all with one child either. You can't use one approach every single day and get the same results. You have to be able to adapt. And I think that's where parents are often much better than schools, because they really, really care. And I'm not saying teachers don't care. There are lots of teachers that do care. But sometimes there are other agendas at work in their education, in the system and in the school, that take precedence over caring for the kid. Whereas for parents, that's never the case. Parents are always caring for their child first. And they're always trying their best to do what's best for their child, even if that means that certain activities have to be put aside for now. That's okay with parents in a way that it isn't okay often with teachers, especially mainstream teachers. For me, I was really fortunate because I chose to do special education. And that meant that I had a lot more flexibility, and I was able to put my foot down a lot of the time on behalf of the students and fight for their rights, sometimes over the school policies. Especially when I went to the Middle East, when there was more flexibility. Here, obviously, there's a strict curriculum in the UK like there is in the US.
Right.
When I was in Qatar and I was working there, I had a lot of autonomy over what I did. And it got me in trouble sometimes with colleagues and with policy and with, management of the school. But over time, when they saw that really everything I did was motivated by care for my students, they gave me a bit more wiggle room.
Well, you were the rebel educator, I feel like. But these kids need an advocate. And a lot of times, in my opinion, for me, it was I had to be the advocate, because I was like, no one's advocating for my child if I don't do it. It's a beautiful dynamic when a parent and a teacher can do that together, I think. And when you find a teacher like that, it's a real gift, right? So that you can really create an environment where your kid will love to learn and will excel, and I liked having the freedom to teach history the way I learned it. Not necessarily what was in the history books, but to teach it accurately, I would say, because, things tend to be left out. So like the 6888, for example, the first only all African American group of females who served in World War II, right? That's not in the history books anywhere, but my kids know about it, right? So being able to have that flexibility is one of the things that I loved about homeschooling. And I think homeschooling itself is advocating for your kids. Carla had a comment, and I'd love to see what you think about this. And Matilda, we do miss you. Thanks for your message to let us know that your internet was struggling. Carla says homeschooling is hard work for parents. There are lazy parents who just want to put their children in any school. What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course. There are. And there are also parents who just really struggle to know what to do for the best. There are lots of disempowered parents. That's what I've seen in my work. I've seen parents who have been told that they are not good enough to be a parent. And they've been told it directly and indirectly all throughout their lives, sometimes before you even give birth to your child. And like I said at the beginning, I was pretty much labeled as a write-off because of my age. And I think that's what made me so determined to be not only a good parent, but also an awesome teacher. I think I always had that sort of, well, I'll show you kind of thing. And unfortunately, for a lot of parents, in response to Howler's comments, it's not always that they're lazy, it's that they're disempowered and they're afraid to put a foot wrong. And they think that their schools know better for their kids than they do. And that's sometimes what's behind that. Let me get you into kindergarten and school as quickly as possible before I ruin you, because I really don't know what I'm doing. And again, last year, I think we saw a little bit of a shift in that. Parents started to think, well, maybe I can have a bit more of a say. Maybe I do know what I'm doing. Maybe I would like to keep my kid at home and try something and see if I can give them something that the school can't give them. So, yep, there are lazy parents. There are lazy. In fact, all parents are lazy on certain days. How
I know that's true.
Yes, I know. And you know what? What's funny?
Work.
I cannot teach my own children. You would not believe that, and lots of teachers will say that. I find it really difficult to teach my children anything formal curriculum-wise. My girls, when they were grade 10, I took them out of school because they were having issues with bullying. They were having issues with self-esteem and their mental health. And I felt that what they were going to gain in terms of academics was not worth what they were going to lose in terms of character, motivation, self-esteem, confidence in themselves. So I took them out of school and I said, figure it out. And I left them to it. Literally, there was no formal instruction at all. And all my friends said, I'm crazy. And they were saying, maybe you're confident because of what you've done as a job. And I said, yeah, I think it does make a difference. I know that my girls will be fine. And with my son, like you said, I tried all sorts of different things. I tried formal curriculum. I tried getting lots of books and sitting with them. I tried making a timetable. I tried homeschool community groups. And the last couple of years, I settled on an online curriculum where he does lessons in the morning and then is free in the afternoon to do whatever he wants to do. And I just let him figure it out himself, in all honesty. Sometimes we get emails from the school, and I'm that parent that is an educator, knows lots of stuff about education, but I get those emails saying you're a bad parent because your child doesn't do their homework. And I'm just like, delete.
I told you, the rebel educator. But I feel that because so I had the same path as you with my son, and I think boys, they have a different way of learning in general. And I went through that whole period of teaching him how to learn, right? We were in that phase probably till like 4th grade of learning how to learn, right? And some things I had to just go, okay, we're not really like, if a meltdown occurs every time we're going to write, I've got to figure out how to get around this. And, okay, so you know what I did? In all honesty, I gave up teaching him how to spell. I quit. You know why I did that? Because another mom said to me, why are you so beating yourself up about the fact that your son is having a difficult time spelling? She was like, he's going to learn how to spell as soon as he wants to text his friends. And do you know, it was